We're on.
You know what would be totally cool? If you were ever so calm and so cool that when shit was getting real heavy, you could look at your buddy and go, "Hey, bro, I got some good news." He's like, "What?" "I just saved a bunch of money by switching my car insurance to Geico."
I get it.
Wouldn't that be cool?
It would be.
Are you ready to rock?
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, baby. Hey everybody, welcome to Conviction Strong Radio. I'm your host, Greg Heisel. With me, as always, is my favorite wingman and co-host, Jake Walsh. Jake, say hello to everybody in the world that listens to this podcast.
I'm always underprepared for this. Hello, everyone.
I do believe everybody in the world listens to our podcast. I have no numbers to back that up. It's just in the feels.
As soon as you hit record, I'm like trying to get creative about how to welcome everyone, and then I under-deliver every week. So,
well, at least we're consistent.
We're off and running.
So today's topic for the show, survivor's guilt, which I'm curious about where we're going to go today. Jake and I usually don't rehearse our shows. Usually you're in for an authentic talk.
Yeah, we never rehearse. Can you hear me?
That's better when you do that.
We do not rehearse. Let me see real quick. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you're good.
We come up with a topic ahead of time, and then we have a matter-of-fact conversation about it while we record the conversation.
Yep. Usually we do some farming beforehand.
And we let you in on the process.
Mm-hmm.
Are we good on the...
Yeah.
On the setup? Okay, so survivor's guilt, as you said, is a mental condition that occurs when a person perceives themselves to have done wrong by surviving a traumatic event when others did not. That's one definition of it. I think it's a little more universal than just the traumatic event label. Alleyway, I was going to say, but I think you can have survivor's guilt from, maybe I'm mislabeling it, but, say, I don't know, say you lose anyone close. I guess maybe, to be more specific, we should stick with the traumatic event, but...
Yeah, I wouldn't want to mix grieving with...
I guess maybe that's where I'm muddling it up.
So I've lost a few friends over the years, but like we were talking about just super briefly before, because I didn't know how much I would be able to contribute to this topic. I said, I don't know. I told Jake, I don't know how much I can contribute because I can't recollect a time I felt this. And Jake said, well, have you lost anybody close to you? And yes, I have. But for me, it was more, I wasn't at the event when they died, and I didn't survive when they didn't. So for me, it was more grief, and then with the grandparents that I've been I feel like I've been very fortunate in my life. The grandparents that I've lost, it was time.
Right.
It had been coming. It wasn't sudden. Well, my mom's mom was sudden, but
you felt that it was time though, so maybe there was some ability to.
My mom's mom, my nana, she had a hard life. I think a lot of it was difficult, and the older I got, and the more she opened up to me, the more I understood that, and the more I respected her. But she was fortunate enough to also live a fairly long life. So, it was sudden, and it was terrible with my nana, but it wasn't like, when I lost a couple buddies in college, those were car accidents.
Oh, okay.
They're there, you're seeing them,
so
and they're gone. And they had,
that is a traumatic event. Even if you're not in the car with them, I think some people might have survivor's guilt, and this is similar in the military too. It's like, well, Craig's gonna go out for me in today's patrol, and then that vehicle gets hit by an ID, as an example, and you get killed. I was gonna say torn in half, but you get killed on the mission, and then I have survivor's guilt, even though I wasn't at the event. You went in my place. Survivor's guilt is common in that scenario.
Right.
So maybe you're saying that you have similar situation?
So I wasn't supposed to be in any of those car accidents. They were just, for me, it was like, hey brother, I'll see you in a couple, I'll see you when I see you again, or, adios, and that was the last time I saw him. So I wasn't supposed to be in those vehicles when those things were happening.
I gotcha.
So, yeah, I don't know if it was, I never felt guilty for still being alive. I just missed my family and my friends, and
It just made it.
I wish I could have had, I wish I could have said
You forced
something. I wish I could have told them goodbye.
mortality.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, I just saw my grandmother in a nursing home, and it's probably the last time that I'll see her alive.
Right.
I don't know that for sure, but I was very cognizant when I was saying goodbye that it could be the last time. So that was
Yeah, that's a difficult scenario.
that was emotional, right? But
Yeah.
but I'm at peace too for
Having the opportunity.
to have that closure. Now, if I get extra time with her, it's a gift,
Right.
and I'm looking forward to that. But
That is how it should be viewed. Anyway.
well, maybe if we keep that presence in mind all the time, maybe that's a happy life.
So.
Oh, are we gonna segue?
A little
You
bit.
got a segue face.
This is from the Brain Tumor Society. So sometimes there's survivor guilt when you have a illness or cancer, for example.
Right.
This source of what I'm about to say is from, again, the Brain Tumor Society, and they talk about survivor's guilt. Maybe you are going through treatment at the same time someone else is, and you are healthy, or your cancer goes into remission,
Right.
and the person that you were in treatment with ends up dying.
Yeah.
So there's survivor guilt associated with something like that. So it doesn't have to be just one traumatic flash instance of.
Yeah.
So it can be an ongoing thing also, and then due to the attrition of the illness, I don't even know.
So is survivor's guilt more about why them and why not me? What's the markers of
the other
that?
side of the coin? Why me? Why am I still alive?
Right.
And they're not.
Right.
But does survivors, as you were talking about with your grandmother, does survivor guilt have a function or purpose? And again, from the Brain Tumor Society, it says survivor guilt may exist for a reason. It can help people find meaning and make sense out of their experiences. It may help survivors cope with the hopelessness and powerlessness of being in a life-threatening situation without the ability to protect or save others. It can also be one way to express a connection to those who have died, a way for a time of keeping them alive. Importantly, survivor guilt can coexist with other responses such as relief and gratitude, and may occasionally be prompted by them.
See, that's interesting to me. I never really thought of it like this. So I feel very lucky for where I live, and I read a lot, and I read a lot of history, and I think back to World War II, and so the Holocaust, the rape of Nam King,
Right.
I look at what's going on now and the way ISIS terrorizes human beings for just having I don't know how you can look at a beheaded child and not have an impulse of what the hell, the things that bother you when you see and hear images like that, the everyday things that seem to be a big issue seem to pale in comparison to the amount of gratitude I feel. My biggest challenges today were getting this gear set up to do this podcast and making sure that our business is operational.
Right.
do I have to fend off terrorists who are trying to chop my child's head off because we don't believe what they believe, you know, or because they've dictated that we're a certain color they don't like or whatever, you know what I mean? So I never really thought of it. And I don't know if I feel guilty as much as I feel blessed and constantly wanting to give back to my community, not...
I think that's where the guilt can come from. In the feeling of gratitude. You know, it's...
Now you got me thinking.
Yeah. It's a deeper topic, I think, than just part of the grieving process. There is a lot, if you just Google survivor's guilt, there is a lot about, you know, Holocaust survivors. A lot of people associate it with luck. You know, why me? Why not them? Why am I still alive when a better person has been taken or killed or, you know, gone through that experience, that traumatic experience? Why them? Why did they get taken is usually how it's phrased, and I didn't. Why? You know, and why am I still here? What's my purpose? There's a lot of rumination on that.
Sure. I saw a video yesterday on the Facebook with a guy was walking with a woman down the street. It was like one of these cameras on a building, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't it was real. It was really happening, like a security camera, and about 150, 200 meters away is a busy highway, and then a grassy kind of knoll, and then like a regular calmer city street, and then there's the sidewalk.
A grassy knoll.
Well, I don't think anybody's hiding there or something like that, but...
What are you implying?
Yeah, nothing. There's no second shooter. But a tire, somebody lost a tire on that busy road, and it comes careening, rocketing over this knoll, across the street, and drills the man perfectly in the head.
Yeah.
And damn near kills him. I don't think it killed him, from what I read. But his whole life, his entire life, and all his decisions come to that point.
Right.
And it's him, not the woman. You know, and then I think about that, well, I would much rather that be me than my daughter,
right,
or my wife, or my friend that I'm walking with, you know, but our whole life leads to that. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's like a reverse lottery. Like, how the hell
right
does that happen?
Well, that's what you're talking about. Or that's what we're talking about with survivor's guilt. Mm-hmm. That's what that whole dilemma, incalculable equation, it's, you know, it's almost like our brain can't fathom it, like.
But to some degree, like, I understand if we're putting ourselves in harm's way that there's an inherent risk that we can be harmed. I get that, even though I think probably everybody believes it's not going to be me.
Even in that chaos, it's the same situation. Mm-hmm. It's whether you walk outside your door and you're walking to the corner store and that tire scenario happens, or
right,
you're deployed and you're rolling outside the wire. The risk is higher for everyone outside the wire. If you're, depending on where you're at, you accept the fact that the risk is higher.
And some people say, well, never go outside, and then the risk is high that you will have a miserable life. You know, it comes with...
Right. So I think that's the, the takeaway from today is that allow yourself the time to grieve and to process the loss, or, you know, to process the tragedy or the event, the traumatic event that caused this. Allow all that, give that all space, hold yourself kindly, but then you got to carry on in a vivid and full, you know, you can't recoil long term and become agoraphobic. You can't just shut out the world in hopes that you're never going to feel this again. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole thing with all these things that we talk about, is learning to live with it.
Do you have experience with survivor's guilt?
There was a couple situations where um, the one, I mean, I don't know that it's ever been labeled that, but I think maybe if I were to think about it and be honest, um, I think that yeah, I do. I have experienced I didn't want to go on leave when we were deployed, and then I went on leave and I was gone, and in the time that I was gone, we took our first casualty because we moved from Baghdad into Bakuba, and the vehicle got hit and the kid got taken. Um, and so I was at home. I waited and waited to go on leave, and then I did, and someone got killed. Not that it would have been any different if I was there.
Right.
There was no saving him, that's for sure. But the fact that I wasn't there just underscored the powerlessness of, and it made me realize things like, even if I had been there would have been no difference, which just drives home the powerlessness
right.
of you as a medic and as a person in this swirling cosmic chaos of, anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But then, in the 10 years since, you have every single day to think about, I should have gone on leave earlier so that I could have been back in time for that. And then maybe, if it were 5 degrees different in temperature and the wind was blowing a different way and, someone overslept and we would have left a little bit later, then maybe that vehicle wouldn't have gotten hit. It's this whole world of false what ifs that you start constructing in order to come to terms with potential alternative realities. But at the end of the day, the real reality doesn't change. That you could not have done anything to change that.
Are those scenarios helpful working through things? Did you any of your research, or for you personally, does it help or hinder?
I think if you start to get mired in that, it can. If you think that constructing those could have any effect on what had happened, if you start believing a different reality, then there's time for intervention, arguably, in the sense that it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can do that in order to process, I think it's fine. But if you're doing that and you get stuck in this, had we left 3 minutes earlier, and you can't let that go, or had I gone on leave earlier,
right?
Had I done something different. So here's another example. We were it was in Bakuba again, and this one was pretty crazy. One of our vehicles got hit. It was Alpha Company. It wasn't our company. We were in Bravo Company. But we were on. It was what's called a catastrophic hit, and the vehicle. We were in Strikers. Everyone in the vehicle got killed except the driver. And the vehicle had gotten turned over, and it was like an M80 inside of a pop can. And these are heavy vehicles, so it's not. And obviously everyone died, so it was a pretty destructive, deep buried IED. And we reacted to it. We weren't supposed to, but we got called up. So imagine the survivor's guilt of that driver, one, being in control of that vehicle, and then two, being the only one to have survived that situation. Now he has, hopefully he doesn't, but I'm sure it has gone through his head that had he, picked a different path to drive on, those guys would still be here, and those families would be unaffected. Had he, driven a little faster, maybe they could have gotten over that. If it was a pressure plate IED, maybe he could have gotten over, or if it was a remote detonated IED, he could have gotten past it before the trigger man hit the button. All these scenarios are probably going through his head. That's the kind of stuff that's, again, if you get mired in it, and you start running all these scenarios, and then that begins to consume you, then that takes you away from living the life that you have,
Right.
that they don't. So then it's almost in vain.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's
That's what a lot of the
that's a
stuff
that's a terrible story, by the way. I mean,
that's a lot of the stuff that I've read about is that, and it's the same conclusion that I've drawn on my own when I start to get down and when I start to overthink things is that or when I make self-destructive decisions, it all comes back to, you got, if you were to pass and in a traumatic event, you would want your family, your wife, your daughter, your parents, your friends, to live full, happy lives.
correct.
Not in spite of not to spite your passing, but because of it.
Right.
Because you can't be here any longer.
Right.
And you want them to still be happy as if you were still here.
Correct.
So when guys get killed, or someone's taken in a traumatic event, or they die of cancer, those people want the same thing.
Mm.
So you have to realize that and operate that way. You have to, like in Saving Private Ryan, when right before Captain Miller got killed, at the bridge, he's pulled Private Ryan closer and he said, "Earn this, earn it." And he meant live every day as full as you can, with honesty and integrity, so that all the people that got killed here, himself included, so that it's not in vain. You gotta earn it. I mean, otherwise it's a waste. It's all a waste.
Does feeling like that you have to earn that for the others who didn't make it also add to the guilt? Can it?
Yeah, I think it's a balance. I think if you because you can get consumed by that too. It being what's the word, righteous. Getting enthralled in that, like I have to do it for them. I have to do it for them, and I'm going to do almost like penance, I guess. Is that the right word? Where you start doing things that are arguably self-destructive or short-sighted in their name, or if you're just throwing their name around. I don't think that's a good thing either. So it is a bit of a balance, honoring them while processing it in your own terms in a healthy way and moving forward. I do have some stuff here.
Before you get in
Yeah.
to that, I just had so people often, one of the things most heard in a retirement home is, "I wish I woulda,"
Yeah.
and I often think about what I regret, and it's, I have screwed up so much in my past but I don't regret